I am delighted to be here on behalf of the Royal Television Society. My name is Caroline Frost. I'm an entertainment journalist, and I have been given the wonderful pleasure of interviewing, on behalf of you all, Asa Butterfield, who is the star and very much a lead and my favourite person in Sex Education, who played Otis, who is a young ingenue turned sexual therapy expert almost involuntarily, but he will be telling us more and more about it over the next half an hour, 45 minutes. I do invite you, if you have any questions for Asa, please do bung them in the chat, and I will keep an eye on that, as well as keeping them towards the end also. Don't worry, just if you think of anything, just throw it in there and I will get to them in time. I've got a few questions first, but very first of all, let's have a look at the clip to see just what he's been up to in Sex Education.
What is going on?
Chlamydia, everyone's got it. 1 for a fiver, 3 for 10.
You cannot catch chlamydia from the air. You have to have had sexual contact with a carrier.
They don't know that, do they? Don't kill my business, man.
Simon, that is highly unethical.
I've got to go and meet my chaperone, but I've got a free period after lunch.
So do I.
Do you want to hang at mine?
Yes. Let's hang.
Okay.
Let's hang.
See you later.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Please just come back.
Ah!
Are you okay? Otis!
Mom!
What?
Dad!
Wait, what the fuck?
I'm sorry.
Well, thanks for the introduction, Caroline. Yeah, as you saw from there, I play this character called Otis, who is in this quite unusual school, sixth form, and his mum, who's played by Gillian, is a sex therapist. So understandably, he has quite a what's the word? Strained relationship at home at times, but he's also picked up all of this weird knowledge of sex and people's anxieties and issues, and he decides to start a sex clinic at school to help all of these horny teenagers with their troubles, and that's where season 1 picks up, and it kind of evolves from there into all of these interesting characters and relationships, and it's very funny. It's very touching. It's a bit raunchy, but it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Good stuff. Taking you right back. So when did you first hear about the project, and what was the appeal of it for you?
So I got this script not very long before we even started shooting the first season. It all came together really quickly, and I was at a stage in my career where I thought it would be nice to do. So I'd only ever done film really up until this point. I'd done a couple episodes of TV here and there, but never a kind of recurring or lead part. And so I was looking for potential TV scripts, things that could be that you could come back to year after year and have this kind of recurring family and character that you can sort of grow up with. And when I read Sex Ed, it really just kind of ticks all the boxes. One, it being a British production and sort of shooting close to home is always nice, and being on British film sets. It was hilarious, and I really enjoyed doing more comedy recently, because when I grew up, I pretty much only really done dramas and some sort of action and sci-fi. And then I did a couple comedic films, really enjoyed it, found it quite different to what I was used to. And I just thought the idea of being on a comedy TV show just sounded like a lot of fun. And I met with Ben, the director, and Sean, one of the producers, and they kind of talked me through the idea of this being this very kind of timeless, John Hughesy drama comedy, which deals with all of these kind of issues and kind of teenage problems, which we've seen in other shows, but haven't necessarily been shown in such a kind of honest and sort of non-judgmental and just kind of charming way. And honestly, it was just the quality of the writing, I think, that attracted me to it, and all the characters felt really genuine and surprising, and it never kind of went where I expected to, which I quite liked. Even when I got the scripts for season 2 and 3, I had all these ideas of where I thought these characters' journeys would go, and then Laurie and the writing team would always kind of subvert my expectations, and I just enjoy that. Yeah.
Good stuff. You say you were looking for something that had a returning element to it. Obviously, that's something that TV offers over film. Why, at this stage in your career, was that ringing such a loud bell?
I think the quality of TV is just getting better and better. And I think when I first started acting, I mean, I was only a kid, so I didn't totally understand the whole kind of world. But from what I think I understood at the time was that it used to be the case that often film actors would just do films, then TV actors would just do TV. And now these worlds are kind of combined, and you see all of these crossovers. And now you get TV shows with huge budgets and kind of the most insane action, and then you get these tiny little indie movies, which I'd done. And I think I just enjoyed the idea of being able to come back to a character over multiple years and really kind of just have more of an opportunity to explore where they go over a much longer journey, over multiple seasons. And I think that just excited me.
I think it's fair to say, particularly in season 2, Otis, your character, I must be very careful to bridge a big gap here between you and Otis. He is seen in I'm assuming many teenage boys would be horrified to have that element of their life on display. I'm talking about, of course, their sexual awakening, both by themselves and with other people. So were you a little bit apprehensive, or is this something you were looking forward to, flexing these particular acting muscles, I should say?
I think coming into season 1, which is the first time I'd had any kind of sexual scenes of any nature, really, and I was a little bit nervous, but I really trusted Ben, the director, and they're always sort of, one, there's often a comedic element of it which takes some of the pressure off, but 2, they're never there just for kind of the sake of it being there. They're always of Otis's journey, or a part of the journey of whichever character there was. And I actually got off quite easy in season 1 in terms of what I had to put out there.
Yes, you did.
And so I think the writer saw that and thought, all right, season 2, we're really gonna hammer that home. Ace's got to make up for season 1. And so I read the opening montage for season 2, which, if you've seen season 2, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, you're going to have to describe it, because I tried to give the kind of like the green band version in the clip, which I very carefully edited last night to remove some of the slightly more eye-watering elements. But how would you, in a word, how would you sum it up? It was a montage of.
It's a 4-minute long wank montage.
Thank you for that.
To a cappella version of "Touch Myself" by the Divinals.
That's a lot in 4 minutes.
So it's a lot to take in. And I remember reading it and thinking, okay, how are we going to do this? And I called Ben and I was like, right, I've just read episode 1. And he knew exactly what I was calling to talk about. And he was like, he told me his ideas and ways to make it kind of visually entertaining and quite cool, and funny. And I think you just have to go with it. You have to trust the team. And obviously the first season we knew was a big success and people really resonated with these characters. So I had more confidence going into the second season that we can kind of push the boat out a bit further. And you just you got to like laugh at it. You can't take it too seriously. You got to laugh at the ridiculousness of what you're doing. And I think we actually shot most of that montage in the last week of season 2. And I remember there being a whole day. And on the call sheet was just about 12 different locations and 12 different scenes saying Otis wanks in the bathroom, in the bedroom. And then at the bottom, Ben had written in a new one, which wasn't even in there. It was Otis wanks in the forest. And then suddenly we were off to the forest for another montage scene. and you just have to kind of enjoy it. Not in a kind of enjoy the process of creating something funny and original, and not get too kind of caught up in your own sort of anxieties or barriers. And I think this show just does a good job of taking those down. And I felt like I've certainly become more confident in kind of putting myself out there, and whether it's kind of nudity or just talking about sex. I think I've become more sort of comfortable with it. I think people watching the show hopefully become more comfortable with it. I think that's a big message of it, is that everyone's having sex. No, not everyone, but once they reach a certain age, people start having sex, and it's normal. And that's something that shouldn't be a taboo subject, and shouldn't be should be embarrassed about. So yeah.
It's a long way from the boy in the striped pajamas and Hugo.
Yes,
so let me just briefly take you back. Have you always been set on a life in front of the camera since? You've been acting now for a surprisingly long time for still a young man. So has that always been the case? Has that been the only pathway you saw for yourself?
No, that's a simple answer. I grew up when I was younger and I was a kid. I didn't grow up wanting to be an actor, and I never went to theatre school. And I didn't, even after I did my first couple of jobs, I still kind of didn't expect myself to carry on acting. I enjoyed it, but it never occurred to me that this would be like a long-term career for me. I was interested in sort of picking up dinosaurs or doing music. And then I was at this kind of after-school drama club, which I went to, and my brother went to, and I went there mainly as a kind of extracurricular activity, just kind of, I think my mum wanted me to go to kind of boost my confidence and kind of improve my sort of social lives. And I think it's a great thing for kids to do, theatre of any sort. I think there's a lot of good reasons whether or not you want to be an actor. And I can't remember exactly how it happened. I'm assuming I was spotted by a casting director, and I must have been about 7 or 8 at this point, and they wanted me to audition for some things, and I was like, okay, I had no idea what an audition was, or like what acting was, and I just went along with it and sort of had some fun. I think at that age, it's more like make believe. You don't kind of think about the intentions or the sort of process. You're just there and you believe it. You don't have all of these other things you're worrying about. You just be in the moment and kind of react. And I think I've taken that mentality with me through my career, as I never went to drama school. I never learnt the kind of acting theory. So it's always just been more like instinctive and being in the moment and reacting to the other actors. And it wasn't until, so just going back to your original question, it wasn't until I did Hugo, I don't think, that I really started to think, okay, then maybe this is something that I can carry on doing. And I think that was partially due to just the set I was on, being surrounded by the most amazing departments and creatives, whether it's the cinematographer, the set design, the music. Obviously, Scorsese was like this huge mentor for me. And that really kind of ignited my passion, not just for acting, but for filmmaking as a whole, and as an art form. And then I think from there, I kind of just went with it.
Great.
Yeah.
As you say, privileged territory, right? To be in just the sphere of somebody as revered and as experienced and as talented as Martin Scorsese. What would you say that you picked up from him particularly? That you took with you? What was the magic ingredient? If you had to identify his unique contribution, what would it be?
I think it was just an appreciation for cinema as a whole, and I think that's linked into what Hugo was about. It was a film about cinema history, so it all got tied together. And I remember him giving me some DVDs to watch on the weekend.
But you had homework.
Yeah, sort of. and then we would talk about it like the next week, and I was only 13, so I didn't have very much to say. I was sort of just like kind of going with it, and then he would talk and talk about all of these references and show me these old films that he was kind of taking imagery from to then use in Hugo. And I remember him giving me a whole box set of Kurosawa movies, and me watching them. And yeah, I think I mean, honestly, if I'd worked with him now, I think I'd be a lot more. I think I'd be a lot more nervous than I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It was. I think as a 13-year-old, I probably didn't fully understand the scope and the like the privilege it was to just be on a set with him. Yeah, hopefully I can do another one with him. We'll see.
And of course now, I mean, even though you're still very young, you're a relative veteran on the set of Sex Education. When you think of all those younger, fresher, well, not fresher, but newbies, as in fresh to the scene, not quite knowing their way through, very much as you have done in the past. Do you feel an element of kind of responsibility? Does it feel quite strange being the safe pair of experienced hands now?
It does a little bit, although over the last few years, I've sort of felt a real confidence when I'm on set that I know what I'm doing and I know what other people are doing, and I can kind of see things going on.
Yeah.
I've spent enough time on film sets now that I can kind of manage myself and then also help other people. And so, yeah, on Sex Ed, for a lot of the guys, especially on season 1, this was their first time working on any sort of film set, film or TV. And so I do remember sort of if anyone had any questions or if I was just kind of explain to people, it's intense being on a set. And there's so many people and so many things going on, and things have to happen so quickly. You often are like a bit overwhelmed, like what the hell's going on? What should I be doing? And so I hope I sort of helped people either ease their anxieties a bit, or just say, like, don't worry about all this other, like all the other 20 people running around and shouting or whatever. Just focus on what you're doing. You guys are great. Like and I think it did. I mean, everyone like smashed it out of the park in season 1. All these guys who've never been on set before, they make the show what it is. It's such an ensemble piece. So I was happy to be the kind of the front man, I suppose.
Take it on your shoulders. You're ready.
Yeah.
You feel ready for it. It's great.
Yeah.
Of course, the only other person who would match you would be Gillian Anderson, right, for knowing her stuff. What's it like? I mean, some of my favourite scenes are between Otis and his mother, who is by turn shocked by her discoveries of her teenage son, and equally, as a sex therapist, delighted in his maturity, right? So talk us through some of your scenes. What is it like having her as your partner in crime?
It was a real privilege to have her play my mum. Funnily enough, my actual mum is a psychologist, so not quite a sex therapist, but in a similar kind of vein of questioning and quite cerebral. And so I remember, I mean, I think me and Gillian just had a lot of fun, and I could tell she had a lot of fun with this character, and she really enjoyed having the opportunity to do something that she doesn't usually do. A bit sort of
funny bones, right?
Funnier and sort of saucier and a bit more edgy, I guess. And we found this really nice rhythm to this mother-son relationship, which was at some points very mature and quite civilized, and almost like a sort of a partnership. But then other times they can both be so immature and so overstep each other's boundaries. So it's quite a volatile relationship. And we have some very touching scenes, and we have some very funny scenes. It's a laugh. It's a laugh having her on set.
I must ask you, I've been asked to ask you about the house. It's become one of the biggest stars of the show, right?
I know, it's amazing. They've actually, so the chalet, it's literally called the chalet. It's kind of unbelievable. I don't know where they found it. But it's now on Airbnb, and I think they're making a killing off of the sex ed house. But then people go there and they're disappointed because the interior is different. So obviously the interior is a set that's built.
Okay.
And the exterior and the porch and the kind of driveway is a totally separate thing. And so people get there and the inside's completely different to, I think, what they expect, which is quite funny. But that's
it's pretty special, isn't it? So having filmed series 1, and what was the delay between finishing filming, completing production, and then when it coming out? that must have been a strange limbo time. And then suddenly, whereas it about a year ago, suddenly whack,
Yeah, it
global
was.
reach. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I don't think any of us really acknowledged or fully understood the scope that Netflix brings.
Right.
Just it being on that platform and being available around the world immediately, anyone to watch on their phone, on their TV, on their whatever it is. Well, it's kind of it's insane. And my experience of Johnny doing films, and it comes up having a really long build up to the release date, and then in the cinema, and then months later it comes out onto sort of streaming platforms. To have it all there at the touch of your fingers was quite surreal, and I think it just amplified because the show was a success, and then just both through social media and everyone being able to watch it, it took off. And I'd experienced some of that in some of my work, but for the guys, and this is their first thing, going from kind of from essentially very little public exposure to being one of the biggest Netflix launches ever, was kind of insane. And it was just so lovely to have such an overwhelmingly positive response to the show, because you do something like this and it does kind of push out boundaries a bit. It is a bit risky in some ways, and so you don't really know if people are going to enjoy it, if it's going to be a hit, if people resonate with these characters and these stories. And so when season 1 came out, and it did, and people really appreciated how kind of honest and frank the show was, it really bolstered our love for it, because we believed in it and we loved making it. But then to have that on the other side, and have people feel that is really lovely.
I suppose, yeah, because making a show, as you say, of this topic and in this style, if it goes wrong, there's nowhere to hide, is there? You put yourself right out there. What was your first realization of just the impact that it had had?
I don't know. I think that's possibly just getting messages from a lot of my friends from school saying they just watched the show and loved it. And then messages like from my grandparents who started watching the show.
Oh, lovely.
And then when we were if I was out, and I've had experience of fame before, so I've been working a long time, but just it's now become often, most of the times, if I'm out on the street, wherever it is, someone will come up to me and say, "I love this show," whatever it is, and then some people will have really touching stories about how the show really helped them find some confidence in themselves, or come out to their parents, or just kind of feel reassured in their own kind of weirdness, that they weren't alone and everyone's a bit weird. It was really touching, yeah.
Oh, good stuff. Could you tell me about Otis's development as a character in series 2?
Yes, season 2. We shot season 2. Was that last year? No, we didn't do anything last year. God, that was 2 years ago now, almost.
Whenever.
Season 2. So yeah, season 1 ends on a little bit of a cliffhanger. Then season 2 we pick up, and Otis is he has a girlfriend now, and he's, as you said, had his sexual awakening. So he's found a kind of newfound confidence, and his sexual awakening has possibly gone a bit too far. So he's kind of become a bit
he's
of a
very awoken.
He's very awoken, if you know what I mean. And so he's learning to deal with that. He's learning to deal with his newfound attention of being the school's kind of secret sex therapist, and everyone knows who he is. Everyone calls him Sex Kid, and he's sort of dealing with that because he still is naturally quite an awkward person, and doesn't know how to deal with a lot of these situations. So it's sort of juggling that and all of these other friendships and relationships, and obviously his relationship with his mother, which has a bit more strain in the second season for various reasons.
How do you feel as A, an actor, and B, as a viewer, like the rest of us, about all the sex on show. I mean, it is taking a new path away from what we've traditionally, I guess we've had older characters being very sexually involved, very romantically involved, but as you say, this is pretty new territory. How do you feel as an actor and viewer about that?
I mean, it's for an actor, it's exciting. It's exciting to be part of something that feels quite new. And for me, as someone who's not really done much comedy and has done much kind of sexual comedy, if that thing, on screen, just for me to kind of push myself a bit was fun, and it's nice. I'm always kind of looking for projects that either I haven't done or is just going to kind of test me in other ways. And then, I don't know, I feel like people are growing up quicker. I feel like young people these days are exposed to a lot and are aware of a lot of what's going on. And it makes sense to sort of treat them that way and treat them with the sort of maturity and kind of knowledge that everyone has now at the tips of their fingers. And you don't need to kind of shy away from it. And as before, it kind of just opens up the conversation, which it should be, even though it is really hard. I mean, no parent wants to talk about these things with their children, or vice versa. So to have a kind of medium to start that conversation, I think is quite nice.
I think I read that one of the first viewings, you were sitting next to your mum.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's all right. You know, is that just another rite of passage, that box ticked?
Yeah, it is. At this point, I feel like I can do sort of pretty much anything on screen, and I'll be okay with people watching it. I feel like
really,
the wank montage is definitely that's like the pinnacle. So if I find anything to push me further than that, we'll see. I don't know. But yeah, I do remember being it was at the premiere for season 2, and we watched the first episode. And I knew what was coming. I don't know if my mum remembered what was coming. I don't think she remembered reading the first script. And I was sort of there, like this. I knew, like, I'd already seen it a couple of times, with my mum like on my right and then my brother on my left, laughing his ass off for a solid 5 minutes. Yeah, it was a little bit embarrassing. But it's sort of what you do, and you have to get over that as an actor. You can't get too embarrassed.
All right. So and you're currently in Cardiff filming series 3.
Season 3, yes.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
And I know you probably can't tell us very much, but can you share with us what you are allowed to do?
Okay, so I'm not allowed to share all that much. But we've been shooting since September, and we're towards the end. So yeah, it's exciting to be. I love making a show, and it's just such a nice group of people, and we have a lot of fun, as you can imagine, and it does get quite silly at times. And yeah, season 3 opens up a new can of beans. Otis has, I remember getting snapped by some paparazzi. I think there was this whole thing that was supposed to be a secret, but then we got snapped by some paparazzi on set, and now it's all out. So Otis has a moustache in the season, for some of it, not the whole thing.
Okay.
And he's found a kind of he's found a newfound kind of charisma, I guess. And he's got a bit more confident in himself, and so I've enjoyed playing with that and playing with Otis's sort of this flourishing teenagehood, I suppose. And we're I'm excited for everyone to see it.
It looks really beautiful on screen. It makes me feel that filming is a really pleasure to do. That the cycling down the beautiful woodland roads, and obviously the view from the chalet, and even the school is in sort of beautiful, as you say,
it's very picturesque. It is very picturesque. They've done an amazing job finding these locations, and we usually shoot in the summer, seasons 1 and 2, and then obviously this year everything got pushed. They've been shooting through kind of autumn and winter, so it is gonna. I quite like the fact it's going to have a different tone. It's always been very like beautiful and sunny, and now we got a bit more sort of the browns and reds of autumn, and it's a bit grayer, and people have sort of warmer jackets on. So I feel like the show has evolved a bit, both the characters as well as the kind of the visual style. So I think that's going to be fun.
So you've got your returning, successful, funny, romantic series. So that box is
It
ticked
all
now.
worked out. It all worked out.
So how's the balancing act with other projects going? Have you got other projects on the go? Have you made other projects since you started Sex
Not
Education?
since we started season 3. I mean, obviously last year and this year, it's all very tumultuous. So yeah, we'll see. I think I've got some projects lined up for after when I wrap on season 3, which I will hopefully be able to tell you some more about soon. But for now, that's all very under wraps. And yeah, between seasons, I did a film a couple of years ago. I think it was between season 2 and 3. Seasons 1 and 2. I can't totally remember. It all kind of blurs together. I did a film that was called Greed. It was Michael Winterbottom movie.
Yes.
Which was a lot of fun. We filmed, my part of that film was pretty much solely in Mykonos. I was out in Mykonos for 3 weeks, which wasn't too bad.
Yes.
You know, and I enjoyed that.
So that's Michael Winterbottom, and as far as I understand, he works on the fly. He kind of welcomes spontaneity into his life, which I'm guessing is quite different from the likes of a big TV production and Martin Scorsese. How was that for you? What was that experience like?
It was a very, very different experience. Really refreshing, actually. I remember the first couple of days I was a bit like, whoa, okay. And I'd heard about the way he works, but actually being on one of his sets is an experience, just because it is so, you're really just left to your own devices, and he would just roll the camera, especially in the scenes we were doing. There was like a big party scene where he literally just had 3 cameras moving around. It was scripted, but he largely just said, just like film for like half an hour as though you're at a party. If you find a moment to sort of do the scene, and we'll find you with the cameras. Other than that, just kind of do your thing. So I was like, whoa.
Right.
And I'm used to having I'm obviously used to having a script, and I do work around the script, and I actually quite enjoy playing with lines. It's like rewriting lines just to make it feel more natural. But this was like taking that to a whole new level.
So what? So you're up against somebody like Steve Coogan, and you're basically told, play jazz. Off you go riff, go jam.
In a sense.
Okay.
Yes.
That's quite challenging.
It was a bit of a challenge. It was a bit of a challenge. My character in that film is a bit of a moody bastard, so I could get away with sort of sulking and not saying that much, which I think worked slightly in my benefit.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just wait. So there are some things on the blackboard, on the slate. We're just going to.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
There's things to come, and then obviously season 3 will be coming out when it comes out. Can't tell you anything about that.
Okay. All right.
And then yeah, later on in the year, I'll be hopefully on some other sets.
And away from the screen, gaming is big in your life, isn't it? So how did that happen? I mean, you're already pretty busy. You were schooling, and you were being.
Can you tell from my huge pilot?
Oh, is this the uniform?
Yeah, I'm actually playing a game right now as I'm talking to you.
Good. How did you come across gaming, and how has it got its grip on you?
I've always played games growing up, and it's always kind of been a part of my life. And I think I enjoy playing them both as a kind of competitively, like genuinely trying to get really good at something, but also as a kind of social aspect. And I met a lot of my some really good friends through games and through talking to them online.
Yeah.
Some of these friends like I've been speaking to online for years, and then didn't actually meet them in flesh until we like going to these sort of like conventions or tournaments, which is quite a funny idea, but that's almost become quite normal. I feel like, especially in sort of my generation, it's becoming more and more online. But yeah, I mean, I've always had a passion for games, whether it's kind of the more sort of artistic side of it, and actually kind of making a game and appreciating all the work that goes into it, and then sort of going to events. The communities are amazing, and I've now signed with an esports team called Team Liquid.
Okay, so this is taking it to quite a serious level then.
Yeah, I mean, so yes, in a way, I'd love to be more involved in the world, and continue to kind of spread the good word about gaming and about the kind of the good things it does, and hopefully be some sort of a spokesperson for the community. And then yeah, my role in Team Liquid, I'm good at games, but I'm obviously not like I'm not a professional gamer. I'm not going to make a living playing computer games. I'm not that good.
Don't give up the day job.
But I am excited to kind of shed light on this world and this whole industry, which is just getting bigger and bigger. And I feel like a lot of people don't fully understand why it's so big and why it's so successful and why people love it so much. Because there's a lot there. And there's a lot.
Are you able to balance the demands of that, and obviously your passion and your interest, with the demands and passion and interest of your successful acting career?
I mean, when I'm working, I'm definitely sort of working, and
Right.
and it is a bit of a bubble, especially these days when you're on set, and there isn't all that much time. Obviously, it's like go to conventions or compete, but I can still sort of play games sort of in the evening, or just work out things I can do, whether it's on the weekend. So it's not a full-time job, the sort of the gaming thing. It's something that I can kind of dip my toes in when I sort of feel appropriate and when I feel passionate about it. And then Team Liquid obviously know that I'm an actor kind of first and foremost, and when I'm working, I'm usually pretty busy. So there's no real expectation there, which is nice, because I can just do things when it feels genuine, and when I have the time. And then equally, as an actor, you do find yourself at points with nothing to do. Because if I'm not on set, and I'm not on a job, then I need to find other things to occupy my time. One of those things is gaming. Another one of those things is music. I've been really enjoying, especially over lockdown, playing more music and kind of working on that. And I've got a band that we haven't actually been able to play for ages together, for obvious reasons. But we are working on some exciting things for this year, hopefully, if we can.
I was going to ask you, you appear so grounded considering you've had this kind of heady success very early in your career, but maybe all these things are a clue to that. Do you find that it helps keep everything in perspective to have these different things on the go?
I think so. I don't know, I think even from a young age, I was quite aware of the sort of acting world and the kind of the vortex, I guess, that you can get sucked into.
Right.
And both me and my parents, when I was a younger actor, made quite an effort to avoid that. And so that meant I stayed in school, and I really enjoyed school and the time when I wasn't on set, and then I could just behave like a kind of normal teenager. I really valued that and was in no real rush to get back to the kind of the adult world of filmmaking.
Right.
And then I don't know. I think it was just my friends and family helped keep me grounded. Made me realize I sort of like knowing what's important. I think not living in Hollywood or LA is quite healthy to not be there, especially as a young actor. I think that's quite it can just do a lot of, I don't really know. There's a lot going on there, and I think living in London meant I wasn't totally surrounded by the industry the whole time, and I could escape from it and forget about it and still keep these other things that I'm passionate about in my life, as you said.
We've got some questions, lots of questions, so I'll get through as many as possible. First couple from Emily is asking if you've thought about writing, and Kieran equally has asked if you have thought about directing and going behind the camera yourself.
I have thought about it. I've never done it. I've tried my hand at writing some little things, but I find it really hard. I find it really hard to get my head onto a page. And the directing is never something that it isn't something I've done. But I think I don't really know. I do have a project which I've been working with a friend on, which I can't say that much about yet. But it's an idea we've had, and we're now working with some writers to kind of flesh it out. But but I suppose my role in that would technically be a producer.
Mhm.
But that is the first time that would be the first time I've really done something on the other side of the camera, which is exciting and is a totally different approach than from an actor, because obviously as an actor, you get a script often and all of the pieces are already there, whether it's the directors attached, the producers, they're shooting on these dates. You're not a part of the years of pre-production and writing and sort of theory crafting and kind of building the style of this project. So to be a part of that is quite cool.
Good. All right. And Katie is asking, after sex education, what would you like to work on next? Do you want to stay in TV? Does that, the way this is all panned out, calendar-wise, production-wise, does this suit you, or do you hanker after a film set, or is it going to be a bit of both in an ideal world?
I mean, in my experience, and obviously sex ed is my own experience of TV, they don't feel very different at all.
Okay.
And so being on the set of sex ed, it totally feels like any other film set I've been on. The only difference being you often shoot across multiple episodes in a day. But you could be doing that on a really long, sort of expensive film or like a multi-series film. So it doesn't feel all that different. And I think in terms of logistics, what was probably going to be the easiest is if I'm shooting sex ed for 4 or 5 months of the year, I think I'd like to do some smaller films or just some films in general, because often they don't take as long, and so you can have a bit more leeway with dates. But then just being able to do as many different things as possible is nice, and to kind of have a breath of fresh air and do something that isn't that isn't Otis. I think it is will be nice, because I've been with this character for 3 years now. So yeah, I'm excited to branch out and try some sort of maturer roles, and I think that makes most sense in a film scenario, because TV often takes a long time, and just shooting this, it's just a lot harder to figure out dates on TV shows, I think.
Yeah, and Vanessa is asking, what other genres in film would you like to do in future? What's been left unexplored but is top of the list?
I'd love to do. There's a few things. I still got quite a few things I'd really love to do. I'd love to do some real like high fantasy, like Lord of the Rings style. Epic.
Right.
And that was like, I loved that shit when I was a kid, and I'm still a huge Lord of the Rings nerd. So I'd love to be a part of something like that, sort of kind of fantasy battles and magic. I love telling stories that are kind of beyond the reasoning of planet Earth, whether that's fantasy or sci-fi. Equally, I'd love to do like a Western. I think that would be really fun, like riding on horseback. I'd like to do some horror, because I've done a little bit of horror, but never like a full-fledged horror.
I think you have too sweet a face for horror. I'm sorry.
No, I think I have a perfectly sweet face for horror. I think this is the sort of face that deserves a real grisly death.
Katie is asking, you have a very cool and unique name. I'm guessing she means Asa. Is there a story behind it, apart from your parents choosing it?
No, I wish there was a story. There's not. I think my mum just liked the name, and then convinced my dad, I suppose.
Yeah, do you know the origins of it? I looked it up this morning.
I think it's got Hebrew origins,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
And it means healer, I believe.
Lovely.
Or doctor. No pressure.
No, none. Do you meet other actors? Is it like PWs?
Weirdly, I have. And there was one of my friends from school in my history class, there was a kid called Asa. It's like, of course, they're the only 2 people in the class. There's 2 of the same name, and it's this like weird name. So I've met a few of us, and we kind of band together a bit. I think there's a mutual appreciation.
Yeah. Like VWs, like Beatles, you raise your headlamps in appreciation when you spot each other.
Two.
Sadie is asking a very serious question. How has your view of your role in The Boy in the Striped Pajamas changed from when you were younger? Because obviously it's an extraordinary film to make at such a young age. What was your understanding of it when you made the film? did they explain it fully to you, or did they keep it something away from you so you were able to perform it?
I remember, this was a long time ago. This is almost 15 years ago.
Yeah, goodness.
Coming on this, it will be 15 years this summer. So I remember reading the book before I started shooting, and I did have an understanding of World War II and some of the things that went on just through school and then reading the book. But they did intentionally leave a lot of the kind of, I guess, details out. At least I said when they were talking to me, I think they wanted to preserve my innocence in a way, which makes total sense for the character and for the film, and also probably for my mental health as a 9-year-old. I don't think you really want to put all of that on someone that age. And I do remember, even so, I do remember some of the scenes being quite difficult, and understandably, I remember shooting the shower scene. If you haven't seen the kind of Striped Pajamas, maybe some spoilers here, so cover your ears. The shower scene where everyone gets gassed, I remember finding really hard because I'm there surrounded by all of these men, a lot of human nude in this sort of room, and the lights go off, and it's pretty fucking horrible.
Even if without all the context in the history, you instinctively realised you were in the grip of something horrendous.
Yeah. And so, I mean, looking back on it, I mean, it's I remember I watched the film for the premiere, but then didn't watch it for ages, and I don't really like watching myself anyway. But then about 2 or 3 years ago, I rewatched it with my dad. This is about 10 years after it had come out, and I feel like it was long enough past that point that I could watch it and not feel just weirded out about the fact I'm watching myself, because the person I was watching felt so alien to me at this point. And then I could appreciate the film as a whole. And they did an amazing job of telling the story, I think. It's really touching. It's harrowing kind of portrayal of innocence.
Okay. Right, so we're going to have some quick fire, which I've only just created because we are running out of time and so many people have got things to ask you. So, have you always been an Arsenal fan? Yes or no? I think that.
I have. I grew up in Highbury.
There we go.
There, so there we go. Yes.
Good. 2 herograms for you. Cara wants to tell you she's just signed up for your acting group, the Actors Gym. And who is it? Somebody wants to, Andrea is in the process of developing a documentary series on gaming and lifting the lid. Perhaps you should front it. So there you go. The gaming offers are already now coming.
They're flooding in.
It's worth putting it out there. Somebody down here, I saw somebody, Ross wants to ask, and this is always good, was it daunting? And what they mean is, tell us a juicy story. Working with industry legends like Harrison Ford and Ben Kingsley in Ender's Game. So yes, I mean, those are pretty big names. What do you do on the first day of set with Mr. Ford?
I think I'm pretty good at not getting too daunted by it. I very rarely get starstruck. I think the few times I've got starstruck, one of them was when I had an audition, and I was sat down in the room, and I was working with. So I had an audition, and it was a screen test, and I was literally about to call him Gandalf, but obviously that isn't his name, Ian McKellen. And in my head, being such a Lord of the Rings fan, all I could see was Gandalf. And I remember doing this audition and being like, bloody hell, I'm really not doing a good job because I can't get this out of my head. So that was one of the few times I've been starstruck. And working with Harrison Ford, again, this is a long time ago. I'm trying to remember what our first actual scene was together. And I don't know if I can remember, but it always felt pretty... I mean, I love working with him. I found him really funny. He's very dry, just as sort of like his, and I really watched that character. And I love dry humor. So being a sort of 15-year-old, just being able to kind of watch him kind of take the piss a little bit sometimes was a treat. And there were a few scenes where we really kind of got to go toe to toe with each other, which I found quite exciting.
Best seat in the house. I'm going to pretend I understand this question. Do you play League of Legends? Whatever that is.
I don't. I've played a little bit. I don't play League of Legends.
What is the game that you do play? I think somebody else was asking that as well. What's your game of choice?
The game. So my game of choice. I've got a few, but the game I play the most of at the moment, and this is probably going to be quite upsetting to whoever just asked me a question about League of Legends, is a game called Dota, Dota 2, which League and Dota are very similar, and they've always had this kind of, not always, but there's been this kind of hidden rivalry amongst the communities. And I just think, I think both games are great, and I think any game that creates a community through esports deserves all the praise it gets. But Dota is the kind of, it's the original. It's like the original League of Legends. And then League of Legends.
That's quite the words. That was Sadie who asked that about the game. Okay, so I have 5 minutes and I have 2 more questions. Oh, somebody's asking how many hours. Oh, wait, we're disappearing down a rabbit hole now. Linus has asked, how many hours have you got in Dota? I mean,
I can actually tell you. I'm on my computer. So
okay, I'm going to ask you something else while you're doing that, though.
Okay.
2 more questions. Who is this is Naria. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Is there any actor or actress that you admire the most that you'd like to work with? Who's at the top of your wish list? Because you've already hit some pretty big ones.
Who would I love to work with? There's lots of people I'd love to work with. I'd love to work with Leo DiCaprio.
Oh, Leo.
I would love to work with Ian McKellen. I'd love to work with Peter Jackson. I think there's a lot of actors. It's hard to pick. I mean, there's so many great actors I would love to work with. It's really hard to just pinpoint one.
Okay. Have you got your hours for Dota yet,
Linus? I do. So I'm sitting at a healthy 2,166 hours on Dota.
Well, I hope that is. I hope that's respectable enough. Okay. Final question from me.
Hours well spent.
Yes, clearly. What are you most looking forward to post-lockdown? What's the thing that you're really pining for?
Thing I probably miss the most is just being able to go out and dance and hang out with your friends and hug people and be relaxed in an environment with lots of people. That's what I miss. But I think dancing, listening to live music, I miss a lot.
Yeah, simple pleasures, eh? Well, it has been a pleasure to speak to you this afternoon, Asa.
Thank you, Caroline. That was really nice.
With season 3, we can't wait. When will it be out? Later this year, I'm guessing. Is that confirmed?
I can't. I'm not that.
Oh, right. We're just gonna.
hopefully Netflix will release Spill the Beans soon. But until then, yes.
Yes. Well, we know that you've at least got your distractions, so you're all right.
I do.
You are. I do. Okay. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Caroline.
Thank you,
everyone, for watching.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.